Welcome to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda. On today's episode, it's kind of a different one. This is the episode that nobody asked for.
Yes, no one.
Not a single person requested this episode. But here's the thing. We're doing it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be like episode 190 at this point. So at this point, we're just like completely delusional and insane and completely off the rails.
We've hit the unhinged era of the podcast.
We definitely have. So I'm here for it. I'm reluctantly okay with this. I have no idea what's going to happen, honestly.
So the subject of today's episode is Greg and Steve do an AMA.
Mm-hmm.
And AMA stands for
Ask Me Anything.
So as some of you may know, we have a Discord for the show, and listeners of the show have been submitting questions to both Greg and I to answer on this episode.
For weeks. This has been going on for weeks now. And so, I mean, we've really, allowed this thing to kind of just snowball to the point where we have to do it now or it will be completely impossible to achieve.
Like, we don't want to record an 8-hour episode about us because, honestly, no one cares.
I mean, this is already an exercise in vanity to a certain degree anyway. So, I mean, we might as well just talk about ourselves for a while.
So, and just to let everyone know, this is maybe our first in-person episode. Greg is currently sitting here in Hamilton in my living room.
And I'm looking at the plant shelf. It's just I have just the best. It's just the best view right now. I'm just looking at plants, and the wall is green, and the plants are green, and the sky is gray outside. So I'm just like enjoying this little tropical paradise you guys have created for yourselves here in this living room.
And just to, if anyone hears a third voice today, that happens to be the voice of my wonderful partner Zoe, who's in the room while we're recording.
And Zoe comes up on the podcast regularly, so hopefully we can tie in Zoe and randomly pass her the microphone for some on-the-fly commentary.
She's going to be fact-checking everything I say today.
Gives you Googling frantically. So I welcome it. I, for one, think that live real-time fact-checking for you and not me is excellent.
Yeah, that sounds right. Okay, so we've basically taken all the questions from the Discord, and we're just going to kind of go through them and wing it. We don't really have a plan.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Just something about the Discord real quick. I love our Discord. I really do.
It's so fun.
It is, like we were saying earlier before we were recording, it's this like really cool community of like 25 people, and things get written regardless of our own participation or anything. You know what I mean? So it's pretty cool to see that happen, where like the Discord exists and acts and continues to thrive. Even if you and I are not participating, things still get written every single time.
It's such a cool spot that before it existed, I didn't know how beneficial it would be after it existed. It's really cool.
Yeah, whenever I told you about it and sent you a link to it, like your username shows up in there, and then all of a sudden you're like, what even is this? Blah, blah, blah. Oh. And I was like, okay, well, just give it a shot. And then you've actually really come around on it. So you were talking some trash there day one, but then I think you actually kind of liked it a little bit as easily as much as me.
Well, it's because for the first part, for the first day, I don't think you realized that my username was me.
I didn't. It's totally true. Yeah. So anyway, that's where all these questions come from. We have a specific channel that says Ask Greg and Steve or something like that. And we've just kind of reminded people if they want to throw a question in there every couple of weeks. And we've got a nice little thing that you've categorized and different slides. So let's hit it.
Okay. So the first question from Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, if you didn't do this podcast, which podcast would you do?
Okay, well, this is an easy one for me because I do have another podcast, a podcast that predates this podcast by quite a lot. But just to say who Jamie is, Jamie has done so many of the cover artworks for a lot of our Instagram cover arts for the podcast. Jamie lives in Winnipeg. Jamie and I have hung out at Propaganda shows. And so, hi, Jamie. Thank you for this question. So, I make a podcast called Classical Ideas. It exists. There are 300 episodes of that podcast that I've been making since 2017. So that's my answer. Classical Ideas podcast, where I talk to professors, authors, journalists, teachers, scholars, historians about the history of religion as a historical, cultural, and sociological phenomenon in our world that continues to influence the lives of every single person around the earth every single day, whether they know it or not. So that's the podcast that I make. So what about you?
That's super fun. So I do not make another podcast and have never made another podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had to,
make it not about music. Tell me one that's not about
Jesus.
music.
Then I had 3 options and they were all music
well,
ones.
no, we have another question related to music podcasts coming up.
Jesus.
So you
Now
gotta,
I'm being
you gotta
put on
pick
the spot.
Yeah, you have to pick a topic that isn't in the, inside the little box of what we do here. So pick something outside the box.
So my podcast listening history is very questionable. I listen to podcasts that probably no one else listens to.
Mm-hmm.
So in what I look for in a podcast is is it boring?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in.
Oh, good. Wonderful. Well, now I know why you listen to my podcast before you're ever on it.
So, I'm interested in very niche things, but one of my favorite podcasts that I listen to is the USW podcast, the United Steelworkers podcast.
Interesting.
And they just talk about steelworkers stuff.
Are you serious right now?
Yeah.
This is amazing.
And but they do a lot of stuff covering the history of the labor movement and
sweet.
stuff. So I enjoy listening to that. So if I were to do another podcast that's not about music, it would probably involve something like that, or I could probably rock off a sports podcast pretty quickly, or wrestling.
Yeah, I was going to say, how are you not talking about wrestling right now?
Honestly, there's so many wrestling podcasts out there, and they're all insufferable. And I don't want to be someone that's contributing to more insufferable wrestling content.
Yeah, that makes sense. A podcast that you and I both mutually have loved in the past is the one from Andy Williams and Jesse.
Oh my God! I talked to Jesse a couple weeks ago when he was in town at the Alpha One Wrestling show, because I'm like, I want the archives of this show.
Yeah,
and he said that Kevin Bennett still has the archives, and he needs to get them because a lot of people keep asking. But then I actually found out that all the episodes are on YouTube.
Yeah. I think you sent me the link to that. But man, that's some Buffalo lore.
That podcast is probably my favorite podcast of all time. Because Andy told a story on one of the episodes. This is a tangent.
Yeah.
But he told a story on one of the episodes that
Question 1, off track.
That I was on a plane when I was listening to it, and I laughed so hard. The flight attendant, I was crying. The flight attendant came over and asked if I was okay because I was laughing so hard at the story that Andy told on that podcast.
I love that podcast too. I hope it's able to come back. So anyway, that's okay. So good. So you got Steel podcast. You've got wrestling or sports. Okay, good. And I've got religion and but the academic study of religion. We're not talking about theology here. We're not talking about that kind of stuff. So I just want to clarify what kind of religion podcast I actually make.
You should talk about the financial aspects of religion.
Yeah, that's actually that'd be a really good topic to dive into. Actually, I can see if anybody that I'm sure there's a professor out there who studies that element of prosperity gospel and stuff like that. I think that's come up on the podcast several times. I don't know if I have a specific episode that's only about that, but that's definitely come up in the past. Huh. There's 300 episodes. I don't even know what's on my own podcast anymore. I've completely lost the plot on that one, but it's still going. I'm editing an episode this morning before I came over to your house. So yeah, still going.
Wild. Okay.
Question 1 done.
Question 1. Let's check that one off the list.
Check.
We're killing this.
What do we got next?
Question number 2. Hopefully it's not another question about podcasting.
It is. I guarantee it.
Yeah, it's another question about podcasting. Okay, question 2 from Danik.
Oh, I love Danik. Danik was on the podcast. He made a cover of a speculative fiction, came on the podcast, had an hour-long chat with me about his love of the band. And Danik did one of those Hard Times articles where he ranked the Propaganda records. Danik is the author of the Hard Times article about Propaganda. So this is not a question from a nobody. This is a question from somebody who is like doing some stuff.
Like internet celebrity.
He is, absolutely. So Danik is here. So what's his question?
If you had to start the podcast over but couldn't do Propaganda, which bands would you do?
Okay, so this one's super easy for me, but I want to see if you have an answer too. Do you want to go first?
I've got 3 answers for this one.
Tell you start.
So, number 1, far and away, I would love to do a Blind Guardian podcast.
I think you should do a Blind Guardian podcast. I think that would be amazing.
Where 90% of the episodes we would just be talking about goblins and wizards.
I mean, you and Ali Cordisco need to team up on this project someday. Even if you didn't do a song by song, doing an album by album, 3-hour-long episodes, I think that would be the bomb.
My goal is to open the podcast with a second by second episode of And Then There Was Silence.
Yeah.
Where it's a 15-minute song, and I want each episode to be an hour where we review 1 second of the song.
Okay, so I want Zoe's commentary on Blind Guardian. Zoe, what do you think about Steve's obsession with Blind Guardian? Because he's taking me to see my first Blind Guardian show in a few months. What do you think?
Yes, I will be there.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So I don't know. I don't know I'm not prepared for any of this.
Who cares?
But,
neither are we.
the whole genre is still very new to me. So, but I mean, I have a lot of fun with it. It's just, I don't want to say it's silly, but sometimes it feels silly. But I
for
enjoy
sure.
that aspect of it. So.
You know what I mean? Like, I love power metal a lot, but I don't listen to a ton of it. It's very sparing. And Blind Guardian kind of like missed me as a music fan, but I got really into Sonata Arctica for a while. I got really into Dragon Force for a while, like Hammerfall, stuff like that. So this is Judicator is another great one. Celador was a band I got really into. So I'm into that kind of sound as well. So I'm excited that we get to have this. Is that your first Blind Guardian show?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. So we get our first Blind Guardian experience together. Yay, hooray for that.
And the day after that Blind Guardian show, Zoe and I will be traveling to Montreal, and we're going to see Blind Guardian with Alicia.
Dude, amazing. Okay, that will be fantastic. Okay, so that's your first one.
My other 2 would be Typo Negative, because I
Sweet.
love Typo Negative.
Yeah.
And then if I had to do a third one, not that there's any shortage of podcasts about this artist out there, but everyone who knows me knows how obsessed I am with Bruce Springsteen.
Yep. Okay, sweet. Mine are very easy. So as everybody who listens to this podcast knows, I got the idea to start this podcast by listening to David Anthony and Tim Crisp do a song-by-song podcast about Alkaline Trio. If that would have been a good choice for me, because I grew up in the Midwest. I used to see Alkaline Trio live regularly, but Tim and David nailed that podcast. So another one that I would be really interested in doing would be Dillinger 4. Who was on Hopeless Records, on Fat Records. They're from Minnesota. They have a tiny discography. They only have 4 records. So I would have really loved to do a Dillinger 4 podcast, but I'm hoping somebody will do it someday that isn't me. But another idea that I had was to do a podcast about bands that have small discographies, right? Like bands that are not prolific or didn't put out a ton of stuff, like Kid Dynamite. Wow. A Kid Dynamite podcast about their 2 albums would be amazing. A Dillinger 4 podcast about their small discography would be amazing. Lifetime would be a great one. So basically, after doing this show and seeing how hard it is to make a song-by-song podcast with a band that has 100+ songs at this level of lyrical depth that we do on this show, going to a band that has not been extremely prolific would be a good decision for me. But Strung Out would be an interesting one as well. I'm surprised there's not a song-by-song podcast about Strung Out, but my cat did that.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, we're looking at the little claw thingy for my microphone covers here. So yeah, those are a couple of ones that I would think about. Would be like Dillinger 4, Kid Dynamite, Strung Out.
I actually, while you were talking, I thought of another one that I think would be awesome, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist out there, but it would be super fun to do, is Andrew WK.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, that would be really good because his like rise, his like meteoric rise with that first record that he did on Island with the bloody face. But those live shows that he was doing in that era
Unbelievable.
were one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. I think I saw him just before The Wolf came out for the first time. So it was still the I Get Wet era.
The I Get Wet era Andrew WK live shows to this day are still top 5 shows I've ever seen in my life.
Huge party. So that's a really good idea. Okay, so those are my answers.
So who won that question? Was that me or Greg that won that one, Zoe?
Are we tallying? Are we doing?
Is this a contest? Is that how it works?
Hey, I'm good. Are we doing like a question draft or something? Who's gonna win at the end of this thing?
All right, question 3.
All right. Oh my God, we're about to be 10% done.
This one's from Matt, sir.
Mm-hmm. Okay, hi Matt. Matt is Canadian and lives in the U.S. So that's what I've learned about some of our correspondences with Matt in the past couple months. And Matt's super active on Discord. So thanks for being there, Matt.
Matt's question is, are either of you in bands? If so, where can we find your music?
All right, you first.
This is a loaded question.
Mm-hmm.
So currently, am I in a band? I mean, probably. Is it active? No. Am I working on new music? Yes. So in the past, I've been in other bands. My first band that I was in was in a band called Blue Collar Madness, and it was all 5 of us. We worked at the Public Works Department for the city, and all of our songs were about working at the city.
Dude, that is an amazing gimmick.
We had such songs as District 1 Garbage Run.
Sweet.
About picking up all the garbage bags out of the communal garbage cans and like having the garbage juice drip on your face when you threw it into the truck.
Yeah, I used to work at a grocery store and a pizza restaurant, and I remember throwing the bags of like expired meat into a dumpster when it was like 97 degrees Fahrenheit outside in Missouri in July. So anyway, here's some gag reflex for I see you gagging over there.
We almost got a live barf on this show.
Oh, God. You're like flashing back to the Humane Meat episode for me right now.
And then, so that band, our biggest moment is we opened for Piebald once.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, that was wild. And then after that, I was in a band called Oh the Humanity, which is the band, if you listen to the 4ZZZ episode, which may or may not be out before or after this one.
There's no way of knowing.
That's a band we did like a station ID at a radio station. They brought us on. So we did like played a bunch of shows. We were moderately popular within town or whatever. Band featured former member of Every Time I Die, Ryan Leger.
Leger, not Legger, which is what I thought his name was. Ryan Leger.
Ryan Leger from Cornwall, Ontario.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, man. His record that he played on with Etid, Low Teens, that record. Whew, I had a period of time with that record, man.
He unbelievable drummer. On our record that we put out that he drums on, he did the entire drums in one take, and it is unreal. His drum performance, like it's not even like. We're talking like odd time signature stuff, and dude's nailing everything in one take. Unbelievable.
That rules. I love stuff like that.
And then I have a new project that I'm working on with buddy that lives up the street, Eric. He played in a band while I was in Oh the Humanity. He played in a band called Hostage Life, who were on Underground Operations.
I know that label.
And they're the same label as Protest the Hero.
Yeah.
And so a bunch of guys. Who we all kind of like connected with back then are kind of putting out this new project coming up, which is another hardcore band that I'm working on the songs for. So
love it.
Stay tuned for that. But yeah, you can find the Oh the Humanity stuff on all streaming networks if you want to. There's 2 bands out there called Oh the Humanity. Another band, like they have like an exclamation point after their name. That's not us. Our albums out there are the ones with the teeth on the cover, and then there's one with a deer on the cover. That's us.
Nice. I have two examples. My most recent musical project came out in 2010, so we're talking about a long time ago. But if you search on Bandcamp, the band is called Hot Attic, like the attic in a house.
Oh, like where the Venom cover was recorded.
Yeah. So I was in a band called Hot Attic with my friend that I was a teacher with at a school in England. I played drums, guitar, and sang, and he played cello, bass, and sang. So we had this attic. He had this attic recording space where we would go up there in his house after school and just sit up there and write songs while his wife, like, just entertained herself in the lower portions of the house for hours, like many times per week for months on end. And we just sat up there and tinkered with stuff, and our result was 5 songs that we recorded, and they are on Bandcamp at hotattic.bandcamp.com. It's very obvious which singer is me and which one is him because he's English and I am not. And then my band that I was in high school was called the Shorties, and we were a dude ranch worship band, essentially.
Like No Pressure?
Yeah, but No Pressure's good.
They're really good.
Really good.
Super jazzed. They were seeing them at Tied Down this year.
Oh, man, that band is so good. I love those No Pressure records. But anyway, I was in a band called the Shorties from St. Louis, and we played a bunch of shows. We recorded. We had an album. I actually have the album on burned CDR with photocopied artwork sitting on the bookshelf in my house, and all I need to do is digitize it, and then I can put the entire thing on YouTube or something.
Love it.
So I am planning on doing that, just never have done it, even though the album is 26 years old now at this point. So anyway, that's where you can find my stuff, hotattic.bandcamp.com.
Hot Attic.
Yeah.
What an okay band name.
It's not bad, right? And we were a couple of nerds who would just like go teach at a school all day, come back and like play music in his attic. And it would be like May and it would be hot in there. And I was like, man, this is a hot attic. He goes, that's the band name. I was like, all right.
Yeah, I mean, our bedroom here is technically in the attic upstairs. It's like converted into like a loft area. In the summer?
Hot.
Zoe, how hot is it up there in the summer?
Very hot.
Very hot. Hot attic.
Like some days, honestly, no joke, it's like 48 degrees Celsius up there.
I mean, hey, at least you're losing weight and burning metabolism when you're asleep.
It is so hot.
Yeah. Well, you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm looking a little trim today because you're up there losing weight while you sleep. I mean, you know, it could be worse, even though there's probably no sleep actually happening if you're just sweating your ass off the entire night.
It is unbearable.
Dude, that is brutal. Well, anyway, there's our music. I don't have anything else.
I forgot we were answering a question.
Yeah. Okay. Number 4. What do we got now?
Number 4. Okay. This one is also from Jamie.
Oh, Jamie's back.
And it says, how do you find time to do the show?
Okay. So I guess I'll start on this one. Immense sacrifice and tremendous amounts of stupidity and humongous procrastination on other projects in my life that actually matter. I know that's not a very flattering question, but I really have used this podcast tremendously in the last couple of years as a coping mechanism for despair and misery. So I could be doing any number of things, and instead of doing those things, I do this because I intrinsically am interested in it. But I do sacrifice a lot of time in my own life when I could be doing far more productive things to do this show. So this is not a question that I feel makes me look very good because you know, countless hours where I could have been like, you know, doing something more enriching with my daughter, or reading books, or cleaning and doing chores, or something like that. Tremendous amounts of sacrifice. Yeah.
This question, if you think this question makes you look bad, this question makes me look horrible.
Why?
Because I do almost nothing for this show.
Yeah, but you show up when you're supposed to, and you talk to me.
But basically Greg sends me a message and says, "Hey man, we should do another episode." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm free 6 weeks from now."
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you know what I mean? You have basements to jackhammer. You know what I mean? I understand. You're busy. I would have personally probably allowed my basement to be filled with sewer water and record the podcast instead. Like, that's how detrimental this show has been to my productivity in my real life.
Yeah, but for everyone listening, Greg does 99.9% of the work on this show. I just show up and talk. Like
Yeah.
I don't do anything.
It's true. I'm not gonna blow smoke here. I do like so much. It's ridiculous. I am relieved, however, that since we went so hard in the beginning of the show, I was pumping out 2.5 hour episodes every single week, and I was like, the second we lose the momentum on the show, it's going to die. So I have to do as many as I possibly can until Keith and our lives like no longer overlap. So I took advantage of that as much as possible and drove the pace at a maniac's pace. And I was kind of like obsessed. And I think I probably drove Keith a little crazy, but I knew that the second we slowed down, we would hit a brick wall and then we would never finish all the songs. So that was like, my obsessiveness really drove this to where we're in spitting distance of having an episode about every single song. So I feel fine about the fact that we went so hard and so crazy on it, because whenever you came on board, I was in the habit of doing these like shorter bonus episodes with guests in the year between you and Keith. And so I had a new rhythm, right? And so that new rhythm allowed me to go at a more reasonable pace for the episodes that are super hard to make and just kind of make the episodes that are more fun. And I'm also trying to dial back the bonus episodes as well now to where we do much fewer episodes, much fewer bonus episodes. I've kind of burned myself out on those. So now I'm actually finding that I'm moving into a new stage of balance with this show now.
Maybe we should just do one episode a month, but it's 7 hours long.
I mean, I'm fine with that. Yeah, obviously, I'm fine with that. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that question. So I kind of ripped on myself a little bit. A lot of sacrifice, man. Lots.
And everyone that's listening, you guys can rip on me in the Discord. It's fine.
Love it. Yeah, bring it. Give Steve the thunder. Okay, question 5. What do we
Question
got?
5. Okay, this one is another one from Jamie, active question asker. Who has been your favorite interview?
I can't pick. Do you want me to say some of my favorites? Do you have a favorite?
I have 2 that stick out in my mind that I really enjoyed.
Okay, well, you were a listener for a long time before you were on the show, so I am curious on your answer for this.
So my favorite interview that I was not part of, and my favorite interview that I was part of. I have a 2-part answer.
Good.
My favorite interview that I was not part of. Everyone can easily guess the answer.
I know
to this.
exactly what you're going to say.
What am I going to say?
Sami Zayn.
Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
Because Sammy and I are both from Montreal. We both grew up in the same music scene in Montreal.
Yeah.
Probably around the same time. It's no secret. I love wrestling.
Yeah.
Sami Zayn is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time.
And he wears propaganda shirts on stage all the time.
He's constantly wearing them on WWE TV. Like he was on Fox a couple weeks ago wearing a propaganda shirt.
Yeah.
So
it's powerful, man.
love the dude.
Yeah.
Loved that interview.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah. And Keith did an amazing job on that one too. He texted me. He's like, hey, Sami Zayn messaged me back saying he can start in 5 minutes on an interview. Do you want to be on it? And I was like, dude, just go. Because I didn't know who Sami Zayn even was. Because that was a brand new name to me. But Keith jumped on that. He reacted in the moment. And he's like, oh my God. So he's frantically setting up his gear to do that interview. He did that thing on the fly and he improvised it.
It was
as far as I know.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then my favorite interview that you've done was the Ryan Green episode. I loved that Ryan Green episode. I thought the insight that he had was awesome.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm not going to pick people in the band.
Right.
I feel like that's a cop-out answer.
That's an easy answer.
Easy answer. But the Sami Zayn and the Ryan Green, loved both of those. And
Cool.
my favorite interviews that I've done, I really liked my Alicia interview
I did too.
because we just nerded out about power metal for almost the entire episode, and it didn't really have much to do about propaganda, but I loved that episode. And then the other one I really enjoyed was my interview with Chevy. As unhinged as that interview was,
Bananas.
it was really good to just talk to one of my oldest friends.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved listening to that one too. And I loved the fact that I didn't have to do an episode interview for Fidelis Hearst. So anytime you interview people, I'm just like, hallelujah. One less thing for me. Okay, good. I loved the Ryan Green one also. That was so fun for me, like such an honor. And he doesn't do that many podcasts. Like if you go search your podcast app, Ryan Green is not like super prevalent out there. So the fact that I was able to nail him down, it took me 3 months to book him. We kept having scheduling mishaps and we kept like having near misses. And I finally nailed him down. I was just super persistent. I checked in with him every couple weeks and we finally made it happen. So if you're making a podcast out there, my best advice is ask regularly and check in with the people you really want to talk to because eventually you'll get there. Okay, so I have a list. Obviously, all 18 band member interviews that I've done have been incredible for me. Talking to Conrad Sichler, who recorded the Propaganda demo tape in 1992 and is listed as the 4th member on How to Clean Everything's liner notes. Amazing, because Conrad lives around the corner from here practically, and he's become like a real friend. Derek Riel was amazing. He was Propaganda's booker and roadie in the 90s. Joe and Rob from Sacrifice were a few of my first major big interviews. Early other big names like Frank Turner and John Darnielle helped drive listeners to the show big time by having that name recognition. Erin from the Rebels spell was an awesome interview because she wasn't super excited about doing it. I think that the memories of the Rebels spell and the passing of Todd Sirius was like still kind of a raw thing for her. But she came on the podcast early on to talk about I'm a Rifle, which was awesome. Love talking to Paul Burrows, who was the Mondragon Cafe and A-Zone building founder in Winnipeg, where G7 Welcoming Committee of Records was held. Love talking to him. Loved talking to Ramsey Kanan recently, who was the founder of AK Press and roadied for Propaganda.
That was a really good one.
Dude, and his like narration of Public Disservice when I made him recreate the entire thing. Ramsey's interview was juicy too. He did not hold back on some of his critiques, which was awesome. Loved Ryan Green, JP Peters, and Jason Livermore. All three of them talked about the production aspect of working with Propaganda in the studio. I also have really loved the interviews with people with PhDs on the podcast. Shane Singh, Chris Deutsch, Heather Mayer, Irina Sarek, Lauren Corman, Tim Gill, Adam Sprinson, Chris Jensen, all the PhDs and professors that have come on the podcast. It's been like amazing. So yeah, those are some of my favorites.
I feel like you listed 90% of the people that have been on the show, and if you forgot anyone, now they're going to be like, man, Greg hated me.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's not that at all. It's just that those are some of the ones that stand out.
Yeah, no, there's been so many. We've been very fortunate to have a lot of really cool people on the show.
I do have a great regret. I was in talks with Calvin, the singer from the band Grand Collapse from the UK, and we were, we kept like kicking the can down the road as far as scheduling goes, and then Calvin passed away.
That's so sad.
I know, and that band Grand Collapse was amazing, and Calvin was so pumped to be on the show, and I was so pumped to talk to him. He actually mailed me records from the UK for free. So he sent me records. So my Grand Collapse LPs in my house were sent to me directly from the vocalist of Grand Collapse, who passed away a couple years ago now. And we just never connected to get the dates scheduled, and then it was too late. So, I mean, that's my big regret for interview that didn't happen.
Oh, man, that's the first time I heard that.
Yeah, well, shout out to Calvin from Grand Collapse. That band rocks. Go check out their stuff. But that's my answer.
That's a good answer.
Thanks.
I think you won that one.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Tally, Greg. Or what's the tennis way? Point. I don't know.
Question 6. This question, I honestly don't remember who asked it because I didn't write it down. But the question is, what is your favorite episode?
Oh my God. Do you have an answer for this?
I really like the episode where Kevin spills the chili on the ground when he walks into the Office episode.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, good, great. Um, let's see. Let me think about an answer here that is not predictable. I think that Anthony Bourdain in like Beirut is probably my favorite episode ever.
We just watched the Anthony Bourdain interview with Harley Flanagan the other night.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I don't understand how that happened.
Well, speaking of Harley Flanagan, we have a Hard Times episode we have to make soon from Propaganda's cover of Cro-Mag's Hard Times.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking that we should do that one next because I'm kind of feeling that one lately.
Me too. We've deep dived some. We just watched the Paris Mayhew episode of Hard Lore where he goes deep into all of the early Cro-Mag's drama.
Yeah.
It is awesome.
Nice. Well, I'll have to check that out too.
But I think this question is maybe asking us what our favorite episode is of the podcast.
Okay, well, I have 16 favorite episodes that are all tied for first place.
Oh well, then I'll go first because I have one.
Okay, do it.
I think my favorite episode is the How to Clean 30th Anniversary episode.
That's mine
because a lot of work went into that and so many cool people were involved. And I think it was just a really cool compilation episode that you got to listen to us talk for 5.5 hours.
Yeah, that's my favorite episode as well, if I can be totally honest with you. The fact that how much planning went into that one alone was staggering. Getting 30 plus covers for the 30th anniversary was an absolutely mind-blowing amount of work for me. And then you did all those interviews that I had nothing to do with. That was an amazing episode. So I'm not actually even going to say my other 15. We're just going to go with that as the answer.
Yeah, it's the episode I'm most proud of for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the other heavy hitters would be Potemkin City Limits, A Speculative Fiction, Oka Everywhere really stands out to me. Mataka Marisa-kun Rasa-kan really stands out to me. Dear Coach's Corner, Refusing to be a Man, so screw it. I actually told you my other list.
Hey.
Anyway, those are my favorites. But yeah, the 30th anniversary thing was insanely special to me and something that I'm so impressed that we pulled off. On the release date. We got it out in time.
And whenever we do our 30th anniversary of Less Talk, it'll be similar.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
How many? We have 2 years for that?
I have heart palpitations now. Thank you for thinking about that.
I guess we'd start prepping.
Yeah, we might as well, man. It's, although, I mean, oh, God, it's going to happen, isn't it? All right, I'm going to build myself up to it.
Okay, Greg won that one because he listed more episodes than I did, even though he said he wasn't going to.
I did it anyway. I really screwed that up. Damn it.
Question 7. Jamie again. This guy just wants to know everything about us.
We are so special.
Okay, but the question is, if you were in Propagandy and you could set the pace of output / schedule of releases, knowing that likely the faster the output pace, the lower the overall quality in the end, how fast of a release schedule would you want to see?
Well, I am, thinking back on when I got into this band, their pace was so annoying, right? Because when you're young, 5 years feels like forever. Because when you're 20, it's a quarter of your life. You know what I mean? So, but now 5 years seems like to go by in the blink of an eye. Like the fact that I'm 40 now and, I moved to Buffalo when I was like 34. It's just like really a strange experience, but slower the better. I think slower the better.
I actually agree with you
Mm-hmm.
because coming from the world where I'm listening to power metal bands, Blind Guardian. If you think Blind Guardian are putting out albums on a frequent basis, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes they're taking 8 years in between records.
Yeah. Slower the better, man. Whenever I realized recently that Black Sails in the Sunset and The Art of Drowning came out 18 months apart, I was like, this is so dumb.
Well, it's but also insane that they put 2 albums of that high quality
I know.
out that close together.
Yeah.
Is unreal.
I know.
But that was a special time for that band.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So I think slower the better. I don't want any. I'm not even excited about a new Propaganda record. I'm still fine with the records that we have.
you need time to the thing about the Propaganda records is there's so much content that comes with them and so many themes that you kind of need to do your research on and look into to fully grasp the songs. So you need time to digest it.
Yeah.
And like some of the topics that they're talking about are not easily digestible topics. So they do take a little bit more time to like really get involved with. So
Well, at least you and I are single-handedly keeping the entire Propaganda fan base excited about the band between the release of albums. Like we are sustaining the fan base. It's entirely on our shoulders.
all 27 of them.
Yeah, exactly. So we're doing some hard work for this band here to keep everything going while they
Maybe
tinker.
maybe when the new record comes out in the liner notes we'll be band members.
Maybe. I wonder if we'll get thanked. Who knows? Probably not.
No.
No, it ain't happening. All right, next question.
Next question. Question 8. Guess who it's from?
I cannot imagine who it's from.
It's from Jamie.
Oh, yes. Jamie's going to be like listening to this and be like blushing, like, oh boy.
Question is, are there any subject matter issues, themes you'd like to see Propaganda explore in future releases?
I do not have any ideas whatsoever because I don't have any requests, honestly. The variety of topics that this band has exposed me to are so immense that I mean, dude, I don't even think I'd know who like Fred Hampton was if it wasn't for this band. I wouldn't know anything about the Oka Kanasatake standoff if it wasn't for this band. I wouldn't know about like the Starlight tours in Saskatoon where cops pick up indigenous men, drive them out to the middle of nowhere when it's minus 35 outside, drop them off so that they have to walk back. You know what I mean? I have no requests because the amount of things that this band has forced me to learn about is so vast that I'm still learning about the things that they have already written about. So I don't have any ideas.
I've got ideas.
Well, bring it on.
So I want to see them. One of my favorite things about Propaganda is how they integrate sports into music, specifically hockey.
Yeah. You want to see another hockey song?
Not hockey. Well, obviously, yeah, but I want them to touch on do an entire song on toxic masculinity in hockey.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, I mean, in the leadership crisis that's been going on with like Hockey Canada the last couple of years that you've been paying close attention to, that could be a good thing. I could see it happening too because Chris was super involved in learning about it.
Especially because Chris has, I believe, kids that play hockey, and their hockey fees go into paying Hockey Canada hush money.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a good one. So I've got another idea as well. I like the speculative fiction stuff, like imagination songs that ask us to visualize something. So I really like iteration. I really like a speculative fiction. So I could definitely see more songs like that being really cool for me. So that's my idea.
And I would love for him to write a song about Scientology.
That probably won't happen.
I know, but it would be cool.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Next,
I'm ixnaying the Scientology idea.
next question.
Okay, let's do it. This is very exciting.
Question 9. Guess who this one's
Did
from?
you bundle all of his questions together?
No, Jamie went.
Did you do this on purpose?
I didn't, but the order in which they came up in, he just went crazy and put a whole bunch in a row.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
it's Jamie.
All right. So what's the question?
The question is, The pod is obviously very time consuming. Do you have any other hobbies you're passionate about?
I do. Yes, very much so. I love cycling. Love it. It's my thing. No physical activity has ever clicked with me in the way that cycling does. Cycling on the road, I'm one of those guys wearing the annoying outfits, like clogging up traffic. That's me. And my philosophy behind it is if I get hit, I get hit. You know what I mean? I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be on the road. I'm going to be riding. And if somebody wants to run me over, well, so be it. But that's my thing. It does something to my brain and my happiness and my mental state that I have not been able to replicate in any kind of other activity in life. I run when I have to. And I passionately ride bikes. So that's my big thing. If anybody out there is a runner or a cyclist or whatever, and you're on Strava, hit me up, and when you can look at my cycling adventures. But I've now been riding bikes on the road for 23 years. So I'm that's my big thing.
Did you learn how to ride a bike 23 years ago, or
No.
did you?
No, I was working in a record store. And my friend Dave, who was my manager there, he was a cyclist, and he also worked at a bike shop for another part-time job. And he just would talk about it so much, and I just got really into it that I impulse purchased a Le Mans, after Greg LeMond, the American 3-time Tour de France winner, a Le Mans Buenos Aires road bike in like 1999, probably. And all of a sudden, I was a cyclist. I was a swimmer before that, and I hated swimming, but I just started riding a bike, and I just loved it. So, yeah.
That's a good answer.
Thank you.
If I'm talking about hobbies, love watching wrestling.
Yeah.
I love wrestling.
Yeah. Yes.
Zoe's nodding.
Yeah, Zoe, feel free to comment on Steve's wrestling answer here. I'm curious. I'm dying to know.
In what way?
What do you think about it? Like, let's just roast Steve right here in his own living room. Tell me what you think.
I mean, I would. Normally I would. That's my hobby, is roasting Steve, obviously.
The professional roaster.
Yeah. But I've really come to love wrestling.
Awesome.
And I was one of those people that was always like, this is stupid. I hate it. Like, it's so dumb. It's not real sports or whatever. And then the more I've watched it, the more I've really come around. And I think like we have a lot it's just fun. It's just like easy fun. So yeah, as much as I want to roast him about it, then I would be roasting myself because I've come to love it.
Love it. I mean, I do have a wrestling history as well. I got do you remember when Owen Hart died?
I unfortunately remember watching that pay-per-view live.
So the day after Owen Hart died, WWF
At the time.
was in St. Louis, Missouri. The next day, Stone Cold Steve Austin came out for the headliner, chugged a beer at the corner of the ring, and like did a salute to the sky. In St. Louis, I was there.
That's amazing.
I was at Raw the day after Owen Hart died. And I was like so pumped to see Stone Cold come out and wrestle. And that's what he did. So he did a tribute, which was awesome. Because, I mean, that's like his bud, his colleague and stuff like that. So you really can't expect anything more than like a tribute. But I was there. So I saw that the day after. So that's my big wrestling story.
Oh, that's awesome. My other hobbies include playing disc golf, which I don't play as much as I used to, playing music. I love cooking.
Yeah.
Big cooking guy.
Send me a recipe, please. Your favorite hearty go-to vegan deliciousness for that I can cook with my girlfriend.
I'll get you something good. And then a more recent hobby that I've come to really enjoy. This one might surprise Zoe. I enjoy doing renovations. I need Zoe's thoughts on that.
To me, that is absolutely shocking because he has dreaded every task I have ever asked him to do when it comes to the house.
Amazing. Well, you guys built that kick-ass Murphy bed in there and jackhammered half your freaking basement. So I'm loving it. I'm loving the yeah. Oh, more.
We is a strong statement.
Oh, okay. Okay, sweet.
I had slightly more involvement with the Murphy bed than I do in a normal podcast episode.
Wow. All right. Well, hey, at least we're being honest here, and we're really getting to the root of things. This is turning into a couples counseling session, and I am feeling very, very awkward here, listeners out there. The tension in the room is palpable. Just kidding. It's fine.
Okay, moving on.
Next question. Jamie's really bringing the heat here.
Yeah, Jamie, we're going to have a talk after this.
Oh, boy. On Discord.
Yeah.
Join us.
Question 10. It's not a Jamie question.
Danik is back.
Danik is back with, are there any episodes that have had to be scrapped and or redone? This is a question for Greg because nothing I've been involved with has been scrapped yet.
So there are two examples. The first one is the name and address withheld episode, which Keith and I recorded with a guest where we changed our mind about releasing the episode. I have no idea what happened to that file, but that episode was never released. There's an unreleased version of the name and address withheld episode somewhere in my computer.
You should turn it into an NFT.
An MP3 NFT worth
$0
minus. You lose money on it if you buy this thing. Okay, so that's the first answer. The second one is the story that I've told on the podcast a little bit in the past about the Super Bowl Patriot 36 Enter the Mendicant episode, where Keith and I recorded on Zencaster for the first time ever. And as you know, on Zencaster, they record 2 separate audio tracks for each participant so that you get a slightly more localized recording sound, and then the 2 speakers sound a little bit more identical in the end product. However, my audio on the Zencaster was corrupted. So when I downloaded the audio files onto my computer at the end of 2 hours of recording or whatever, Keith's voice was there and my file was not. So I had an episode in scheduling with Keith in the aftermath of his son being born was very difficult. We were constantly reconfiguring schedules. And so asking him to redo it just was not in the cards. And at the time, I had split custody with my daughter. So I had a stretch of 3 days ahead of me where I was child-free and with no real plans on the books. Keith and I decided that he was going to record. We were not going to re-record. So basically what I did is I downloaded his audio into my GarageBand or Logic or something, and I had a conversation with a recording of Keith for the entire episode of Super Bowl Patriot 36.
That's amazing.
So if anybody goes back and listens to that episode, that is not a live conversation with me and Keith. That is me talking to a recording of Keith and watching for the gaps in the audio and trying to perfectly fill the gaps between the sound file on my audio program. It was the worst experience.
Did that take you the longest to do?
It took me 11 hours, to redo it. So it was I worked on it in one sitting, and I went to bed at 5:30 in the morning. Like, I worked on it straight for a whole night.
Honestly, everyone listening, if you don't go back and listen to that episode now, I feel like everyone needs to go listen to that episode just so the work Greg did can be heard by everyone.
It was the hardest episode that we've made, and I've made some doozies on this episode, but re-recording an entire episode where I was snipping Keith up and placing his audio so that it perfectly aligned with me. So I was moving Keith around like a puzzle on the screen and then re-recording my sections and then like putting Keith's little clips farther apart and placing mine perfectly timed in between each one. It was one of the worst experiences ever. And I would not do that today. I would just delete the entire thing now and I wouldn't care. And I would say, I'm not freaking doing this. But back then, I was so obsessed that I could not see another way forward because it would have meant that there was no episode that week. And I was not in that place yet.
That's wild.
I know.
That's a crazy story.
Yep. So that's those are the 2 examples of ones that have been scrapped and redone.
Oh, Greg wins question 10. Question 11. I don't remember what it is. What is
How
it?
many are these? Oh my god, this is brutality.
Question 11 from Ed.
Oh yes,
Is it GIF or GIF?
GIF.
I'm going with a different option.
What?
So I'm taking the J and the F, but I'm putting 2 E's in between it, and I'm pronouncing it Jeef.
All right, fine.
Like Jeep with an F instead of a P.
Hey man, you do what you got to do.
Sweet Jeef.
All right, I can see it. All right, that's not bad. Next question.
I win.
Okay.
Question 12.
I really hope somebody out there listening is actually tallying the winning and the losing.
Ed.
Ooh.
Again,
Oh, good.
what is your favorite song backstory?
Okay. Okay, so Bringer of Greater Things, I brought it up earlier. That was an early one for me. Episode 6 or something, Copters Out of Frame was episode 3. Those are 2 really early ones that showed me the stories that are embedded in these songs, like the story of Thich Quang Duc, who self-immolated in Vietnam, which we've also recently seen from Aaron Bushnell, the American Air Force service member who self-immolated in protest of the ongoing events in Gaza. So that was a really important one for me, the backstory of Thich Quang Duc. The backstory of Bringer of Greater Things about the cops who were driving indigenous men into the wilderness and leaving them to their death. The backstory of Tertium Non Dater, the song from supporting cast, being adapted from a Giant Sons song. Beeves' earlier band was really cool. And then Rock for Sustainable Capitalism and NoFX's response, One Celled Creature, because of the drama and the fact that it's, who doesn't love a little bit of drama once in a while? And then Mataka Marisa Kun Rasakan to contrast the life of the teenage Chris Hanna with the life of Bella Gallows. So, yeah.
Those are great answers.
Thank you.
I've got 3 answers.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 would be Banger's Embrace,
Oh, yeah.
because haven't we all had that experience
Dude.
at one point in our lives?
Absolutely. And I started this podcast with that song because I felt like it was let's just make this about The Rock, man. You know what I mean? Like, who can't, why, we're all here united by our love of rock and roll.
I've done countless rock and roll themed pilgrimages.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of Bruce Springsteen tourism that I've done is crazy. So Banger's Embrace 1, Dear Coach's Corner number 2, because grew up watching Coach's Corner and always disliked Don Cherry.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, Okay Everywhere, because I grew up in that area while all that was going on.
Yeah.
So it was it was just cool to hear a song about something that like I had lived experience about, because I used to play hockey on the reserve growing up and everything. So it was, I really like that song holds a special place for me.
I love it. I mean, and if I think about the episodes that we've done too, some of the really personal ones, the ones where I remember telling extraordinarily personal stories about my own life, would be like the This Is Your Life episode, and then Last Will and Testament, man. That Last Will and Testament episode was intense for me because I was talking about like watching the end of my grandfather's life and stuff like that. And like, so there's some episodes where I love the backstory for what actually happened in the real world that the band based the lyrics on. But then there are some episodes that brought out some things in my own experiences in life that I hadn't really thought about. So yeah, good question.
Great question. Thank you, Ed.
Is that a draw? Did we tie?
Zoe, who won that one? It's a draw. Zoe said it's a draw.
All right, sweet. All right, next question.
Question 13. Guess who it's from?
Danik.
No, it's from Jamie again.
Oh, Jamie.
Jamie.
Okay.
Who would you like to come on the show that has not been on yet as a guest? Who is a fantasy guest?
Do you have an answer?
I have 2 answers.
I'm going to let you start this one.
So my first answer is Kim Kelly.
Ooh, nice.
I think Kim Kelly's awesome. I follow her online. I have one of her books here, which I've read. And I actually tried to get her on the show. And she said, Propagandy, love the politics, don't care for the music.
Yeah. I was going to say, because I know Kim Kelly's like very, very metal oriented.
Yes.
Yeah. Great idea, though.
So that's number one. And then number two, I've also inquired about getting this person on the show to no luck, is Jesse Barnett.
No luck, huh? Didn't Jesse sing the Shai Hulud cover of Hate Myth Muscle Etiquette?
Yeah, I would say this one I'm still working on. It's still in the works.
Okay.
But I would love to one day because I'm a big fan of what he does. Seems like a very cool guy. And I would love to talk to him about this stuff.
Well, my fantasy guest that you need to come through for me on someday is George.
George.
Yeah, give me some George. That's a big one for me. And I'm not even going to say what George I'm talking about because we all know what George it is. Okay, so another one for me, obviously, Mike from NoFX or Aaron from Fat Records are obvious ones that a lot of people have asked for. I know. I'm saying, man, like someday. He knows too. I have nudged him on Instagram and he has acknowledged those nudges. So the line of contact has been established, all right? It's going to happen.
I should get my brother to ask him because he constantly thinks my brother is me. Because my brother somewhat looks like me a little bit from when you met him, but
I don't care how it happens. Take advantage of all avenues. Give me some George. Next, Hello Epitaph Records. Epitaph Records, Propagandy's current record label, has never once to this day acknowledged the existence of this podcast. Hundreds of thousands of downloads promoting albums that Epitaph has released have been downloaded on this podcast. Epitaph has been tagged in hundreds of Instagram posts, hundreds of Twitter posts, has never once acknowledged the existence of this podcast in any way, shape, or form. So, Epitaph, you are welcome for the thousands of hours that I have put into promoting one of your bands without a single speck of acknowledgement from any person at the record label. So, when we're talking about fantasy guest, just an Instagram like acknowledging the existence of this podcast, that is my fantasy guest at the moment. And that might seem petty, but come on, it's one of your bands. And I have put my heart and soul into this project, and they've never once acknowledged that we exist.
that's awful.
Yeah, I'm not pleased about it. I'm not, I know that like Fat hasn't, like the publicist at Fat has been very helpful in getting me guests in the past. And the relationship with Propaganda and Fat is good as far as I can tell, but they're not on the label anymore.
But they're still more helpful than the label that they're actually on.
Yeah. And so this question really kind of peeved me because of the fact that Epitaph has never once acknowledged that we exist.
So other than Propagandy and one other band, because they just put out their new record on Epitaph. I believe Drain just put out their new record on Epitaph. I couldn't tell you a single other band on Epitaph right now.
The Menzingers?
I don't think I've ever heard of that band.
Okay. Yeah, that's my Pennywise.
I know Pennywise are still active.
And Rancid, yeah. Rancid and Pennywise.
Rancid are still on Epitaph.
They are, yeah.
I thought they were doing Universal.
No, that was like 20 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah. That was only one record as far as I know. But anyway, those are my fantasy guests / let Greg gripe about a grudge against Epitaph Records.
I think it's a valid grudge.
Hey, thanks. I agree because like Fat has been pretty cool. I mean, I have nothing bad to say about my correspondences with Fat at all. So, but Epitaph has never once, not a single time in like I said, hundreds of thousands of downloads hundreds of thousands for a podcast with no sponsors. Like, we've done pretty well. I feel like we've done good work. And we're basically creating free promotional materials for Epitaph's releases, and they've never said a single thing.
Hey, Epitaph, if you're listening, just be better.
Come on. Anyway, next question.
Next question. Question 14
Yes.
from Jamie.
Man, I'm getting saucy now.
Okay.
We're into this thing now. I'm ready to throw some heat. What do we
Question
got?
14 from Jamie. Any observations on Propagandy fans and your interviewees as a whole?
Oh God. Very nice, very interesting, very smart, very giving of their time, as one would expect.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
I also would like to add, not weird at all.
Not weird at all. Seriously. Like, I have gotten thousands of Instagram DMs over the years. I've never had a bad experience talking about this band with fans on Instagram or Twitter or anything.
I've yet to encounter a single weird person.
Yeah. So I feel that is so fantastically refreshing.
Follow up.
Yeah.
Does that mean we're the weird people?
Yes, absolutely. How could that not mean that we're the weird?
If everyone else is not weird, that makes us the weird ones.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
oh man. Geez. Okay, let's just cut this recording off right now.
we're moving on to the next
Oh
question.
God, oh boy.
Question 15. How do you say that?
It's Paul Hodgert.
Yeah, Paul.
His username is Fodgert.
Fodgert.
Yes, but it's Paul.
Paul. Yeah.
Paul has done several covers on the podcast. He did both of he did the Fine Day and Warriors Peace covers.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show.
So Paul's question is, who was the worst guest and why was it me?
Okay, so it definitely wasn't Paul. And I'm not going to name any names here, but I will say this about quote-unquote worst guests. Any discerning listener can tell when a guest comes on the podcast and is not prepared or totally wings it with their answers and doesn't have anything of real substance or depth to say.
I agree.
It's immediately obvious, right?
And it's immediately obvious also because I think you can hear the panic in our voices when we realize, oh man, I have to carry this.
Oh yeah, and you know, I'm fine with that. I invite people on because they say they love the band, and if it winds up being something where they have a ton to say, I'm so grateful. Like, okay, so a really good example of somebody that went really well is Mike Hansen from the band Pentimento and Hotel Etiquette in Buffalo. That guy's observations on George's drumming was so awesome. And he had so much nuanced depth and commentary. That was one where I was like, hallelujah, slam dunk guest of a person who's not super well known, but is really important to me in my life in Buffalo. So Mike blew me away. But a great guest is immediately obvious to listeners, right? And a not great guest is also immediately obvious. And I'm going to refrain from naming names, like I said, because at the end of the day, I released the episodes. I didn't have to release them, but there are ones that are clearly not as good as others. But if I invite a person I thought would be a great guest and they just kind of wing it, I can't win them all. You know what I mean? I've done so many of these at this point. So since this isn't a job, I released the episodes. Somebody gave me their time, gave me their energy. I released the episodes anyway. But some of the worst guests have been very recognizable names that people will listen to anyway, right? Some of my least favorite interviews are some of the most well-known people that have been on the show. Most of the incredible guests are very regular people, right? But if someone listens to a bad episode and liked it, I can't imagine how much they would dig a very good episode, right? Pigs Will Pay, Cop Just Out of Frame, Stick the Flag, Fadala, Note to Self, Potemkin. I hope the people that stumbled across a bad episode at least listened to some of those other ones that I worked harder on than anything I've ever worked on in my entire life. So I hope that people who like the episodes that I think are bad actually find the good ones also.
And at the end of the day, it's all subjective to whoever's listening, because what we might feel like is a bad interview might be someone else's like, oh, that was awesome.
Yeah, but like I've gotten DMs and said from people who are very discerning listeners said, "Wow, so and so, like that was pretty surface level, wasn't it?" And it's like, yeah,
Sometimes it's just not there, and it's fine.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So anyway, that's my answer.
That's a good answer.
It wasn't Paul. Paul rocked. Paul's covers are so good too.
And Paul's a wonderful member of the Discord community.
He is. And Paul is working on some mastering work for a compilation that we're trying to put together. So Paul's a very contributing, active member of this community.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show. Next question.
Question 16 from our buddy Danik again.
Love it.
This song is, what propaganda song do you hope to see most at the next concert you attend? And are there any that you've seen too many times at the point that don't excite you as much anymore?
I don't care if I ever see Anti-Manifesto or Nation States ever again.
It's funny because one of those is also on my list.
Mm-hmm.
If I never see Nation States again, I'm fine with it too. I don't want to see Ska Sucks ever.
That's never going to happen.
But I just don't want to see it ever.
I don't want to see it either.
No interest.
Yeah. I think if they started playing This Might Be Satire, I think that I would like yawn or like cringe. But what do I want to see? I want to see, here's my list. Iteration, Albright Monument Baghdad, Ego Sum Papa, Bullshit Politicians, Supporting Cast, which I have seen, but I haven't seen since 2010. And I also want to see I Was a Preteen McCarthyist, which is the song I want to see live more than any song in their entire catalog that I have not seen in the past 10 years.
Those are good answers.
Thank you.
My answers are obvious because they're my answers with all propaganda songs. I always want to see them play Purina Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
I always want to hear them play State Lottery.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to see Fidela.
Yeah, that would be incredible. More Potemkin would be like play Life at Disconnect. Do you know what I mean? Give me the Todd songs from that record as well, because I know that Chris has issues and qualms with his own vocal performance on that record and recreating that stuff live. But man, give me the Todd stuff on that record.
Honestly, more Todd.
More Todd.
More Todd.
Yeah, it's like you got to use that sparingly though, because he's a weapon. And he gives Chris a break. But you know what I mean? I also understand why they play songs like Negretto, because Negretto is longer, and it gives Chris longer of a break in a set, which you know what I mean? They're very strategic about what they play.
Well, you have to be, right?
Yeah. All right.
It's not as if they're just playing bozo music up there. Like, they're putting in the work every time they get up there.
Next question.
Next question. Question 17.
Oh, my God.
For those keeping score.
Oh, my God.
From Danik. Of the remaining songs, are there any that you are dreading?
Yes. Lower Order. I have talked about animals so much on this podcast. I am not excited about that episode at all. So you have to carry that one for me.
I've yet to talk about animals on the podcast, and I have a lot to say about animals.
I have said it all. Humane meat nearly killed me. Potemkin nearly killed me. Purina, nailing Descartes to the wall. Nailing Descartes to the wall, maybe a top 5 episode on this podcast ever. The interview with Lauren Corman, mind-blowing. Anyway, so I'm dreading Lower Order. Interestingly, another song that we have left, not a single person has ever once asked me for an episode on In Flagrante Delicto. Not a single person has ever said, Greg, when are you making the In Flagrante Delicto episode? 0, which fascinates me.
That makes me want to do it more.
Dude, I am so I'm not excited about Lower Order. I'm mildly excited about In Flagrante Delicto. But that's the reason why Victory Lap isn't done yet, is because Lower Order I've procrastinated relentlessly, and In Flagrante, no one has ever inspired me to do it. So, yeah.
And I don't have any that I'm dreading. I don't dread doing any episodes.
You shouldn't.
I honestly...
You're my joy counterpart. You should not be dreading this.
maybe it's because of the level of my involvement with the show, but I don't dread any of it. Like I genuinely enjoy all of them.
I love it. Great question. Next.
Question 18
Yeah.
from Matt, sir.
Yeah, Matt.
Give us a rundown on your poutine journey. Whether it's meat poutine, veggie poutine, vegan poutine, Montreal poutine, Hamilton poutine. Poutine rankings, please.
Okay, so I don't know anything. I'm from Missouri, so you're going to have to answer this question because I don't have one.
So I have a follow. I'm going to answer the question, obviously, because this is a subject that I feel very strongly about.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to know your poutine journey. Like, when was the first poutine of your life?
Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
How old were you when you had your first poutine?
25.
25.
Yeah.
And your very first poutine was a terrible poutine.
No, it was amazing.
No, it was from Saskatchewan. It's terrible.
Yeah, but like in my memory, I was hammered drunk for one. And I pounded that thing like my life depended on it. So I have no recollection really of this. All I know is that I ate the entire thing very quickly. I think it was New Year's Eve. And I was very drunk, and I almost got beat up in the parking lot of the little bar in rural Saskatchewan.
Man, that it's crazy. First of all, it's awesome that you remember your first poutine.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I was an adult, and when you have something that's that specific, dude, I grew up in the Midwest, man. Like you get fries, you dip them in ketchup. You know what I mean? There's no decorating of the fries. When I was a kid, it was just ketchup, fries.
So, I grew up in just outside of Montreal, French Canadian family. So poutine is part of my.
Je suis désolé, je ne parle pas français.
Exactly. So poutine is part of who I am.
Right.
And before I get into my good poutines, I would like to talk about some of the worst poutines I've ever had in my life. So the worst poutine I've ever had in my life was a moment that I regret now. It was when I was much younger on a hockey trip into in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So my hockey team went into the U.S. when I was younger. The whole team goes. You go to these like middle of nowhere diners or whatever. And 11-year-old Steve is like, I'm getting the poutine and the Montreal smoked meat. Both horrifically bad ideas. So I will take the Montreal smoked meat aside. But the poutine, what it was French fries with on top, they had slices of Kraft Singles cheese.
Oh, wow.
Melted on the fries, then like chunks with a spoon of mayonnaise on top of that, and then ketchup like all over it. And that was the poutine. I did not take a single bite because even thinking about it right now is disgusting.
No, I'm nauseous over here, like on the other side of the couch.
Like, can you believe a restaurant actually, like, that's a thing that someone tries? Like, they think that someone will eat that.
And then you had to pay for it?
Like, that human money pays for something like that, and I can't believe it.
No, this is disgusting.
So
I am against that experience.
Awful. Okay, and then so basically for poutines, I'm going to break this down into top poutines like in general that I've eaten in my life. And basically you could go to any of these places right now and get a bangin' poutine. Okay?
Bring it.
So number 4. This is my Mount Rushmore of poutines.
This is insane to me right now. You put more thought into this question than any other question, didn't you?
I could give a TED Talk on poutines.
I mean, I think you should.
So first of all, if your poutine's being made by an English person, it sucks.
Okay.
Second of all, okay. So number 4, Chez Ashton. It's a chain in Quebec City.
Uh-huh.
Makes wonderful poutines. If anyone in Quebec City is listening to this, I know it's the local spot. There's probably better ones. But if you're a tourist going to Quebec City, you hit up Chez Ashton, you get your poutine.
Mm-hmm.
You walk away, you're happy.
Okay.
It's a good entry-level poutine that's very consistent.
Okay.
You're not going to find any surprises. And that, to me, that's the best part about a poutine is that consistency.
Okay. Sweet.
Number 3. So this is also another quick and easy poutine is the poutine that you get at the Lafleur's chain in Montreal.
Okay.
Lafleur's is a like a steamy joint in Quebec. So for what if you're not familiar, if you're not from Quebec, the province of Quebec is obsessed with hot dogs.
Mm-hmm.
They love hot dogs. There's restaurants that only serve hot dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And Lafleur's is one of them. They serve burgers too, but you go there for your steamy hot dogs. And their poutine is just a really, really good poutine. But it's also dependent on which Lafleur's you go to. So that's kind of the unfortunate thing because there's a few Lafleur's that aren't as good of quality. Like I'm sure like whatever chain restaurants you had in your town growing up is like, oh no, well that's the good McDonald's, or no, like that's the bad McDonald's.
Absolutely.
Right? Like,
the McDonald's down the street from my house in Buffalo is known in Buffalo as one of the 2 worst McDonald's in all of Buffalo. Like it's a real thing.
yeah, it's just bad. So Lafleur's, if you're in Montreal and if you want a Lafleur's poutine, hit me up. I'll tell you which one the good Lafleur's are because it's insider info. And absolutely, I'm gatekeeping this info unless you message me.
That's
because
fine.
I don't want the good Lafleur's overflowing. Because even though, like, you go into a Lafleur's, if you go in at lunchtime, it's one of the most breathtaking places to go because they get people through the cash. You're getting probably 5 people through in a minute. It's so efficient and fast at Lafleur's.
Nice.
It's great. Anyways. That was number 3. Number 2. So there's an arena in Châteauguay, which is a suburb of Montreal on the South Shore. They make amazing poutine.
Are you talking about like a vending concession stand in a local hockey arena?
Yes.
Oh my God.
So I can't remember the name of that arena specifically, but it's in Châteauguay, and I can text my dad and he'll know it.
Okay.
But their poutine is great. Good value, good size, excellent poutine. And it's better than both of the Chez Ashtons and the Lafleur's, but it's in a more niche spot because it's at a hockey arena on the South Shore of Montreal. Number 1, the best poutine of my life is also at a local hockey arena.
Wow.
It's at the Cité des Jeunes Arena in Vaudreuil, Quebec. So, Chevy lives right around the corner from this place. Growing up, we played so frequently at this arena that it was the place that everyone wanted to play games there because the poutine was so good.
Amazing.
And I have a follow-up. So I haven't played at this arena since I was 16. So it's been many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
My brother, I have a nephew that plays hockey now that lives in the Montreal area. He plays games at the Cité des Jeunes Arena. So my dad was at the Cité des Jeunes Arena last week.
Nice.
My dad has informed me that the poutines are still the best poutines around.
Wow.
So if you're looking for the best poutine that you can find, in the opinion of my entire family, the Cité des Jeunes Arena in Vaudreuil, Quebec, has the best poutine around.
I hope you're happy, Matt, for this question.
And then now I've got vegan poutines.
Okay, go for it.
So there's a lot of really terrible vegan poutines out there,
Okay.
but I'm only going to mention one in terms of the best vegan poutine.
Okay.
So I feel very strongly about poutines, as you know, and I'm very critical of them.
Yeah.
And for a good poutine to exist, you have to have really good quality fries. They can't be frozen fries. They got to be fresh cut fries. They have to have they have to be double fried. You want a double fried fry. You want really hearty gravy. Your gravy has to be really good, and you don't want to cheap out on the curds.
Yeah.
You have to have a good amount of curds to fries to gravy ratio to make the perfect poutine. In terms of vegan poutine, I'm giving a shout out to friend of the show, Mick,
Ooh, Mick.
because when I went to the AEW Forbidden Door pay-per-view at Toronto's Scotiabank Arena,
Yeah.
I met up with a friend of the show and listener of the show, Mick, who works at Scotiabank Arena.
Yep.
And he has implemented a new plant-based menu
Yeah.
at Scotiabank Arena.
Yes.
This poutine that Mick gave me that night absolutely changed my opinion on vegan poutines,
Amazing.
and thus confirming that all of the best poutines are eaten inside hockey arenas.
This is amazing. And Mick rocks. Like, I got to meet up with him at Blink-182 when they played in Scotiabank, or was it Muse? It was one of those two shows. Anyway, I met up with Mick, had a great chat. I love that you and him got to meet up as well and chat about what he's doing at Scotiabank, because it's really cool to see.
It's really cool to have someone in a position of influence at an arena that really wants to push the boundaries of what's available and accessible food-wise for people that attend the arena. Because let me tell you, going to most arenas as a person who's vegan sucks.
Yeah, and like it's really cool that Mick's doing that. I would love to see his like sales data and stuff like that to see how he's doing and faring with like the cost of the ingredients and the items and putting together the menu, and then also seeing what the sales look like and seeing how it's like balancing out financially as well. Like that'd be really neat to see.
Yeah, it's but if you're ever in Scotiabank Arena in Toronto and you're vegan, get that poutine because Mick put some work into it and it's delicious.
Sweet. Amazing.
Okay, I think I just talked about poutine for like 25 minutes.
That's fine. Next question.
Next question. I won that one.
Yeah, you win. I don't know anything about poutine. I'm from Missouri, man.
Question 19
Yeah.
from Matt Sir again.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
This is a fun question. This one is, Greg, what are some of your favorite historical times either to teach or your favorites to think about? And Steve, what's wrong with Greg's answer to that question, and what's the correct best historical period?
Okay, so I actually don't like teaching about history really at all. I used to be a history teacher, but in 2013 I became an English teacher, and I left social studies and history entirely behind for the most part. So my answer is a non-answer because I 100% prefer teaching literature to history, which also obviously contains historical references and stuff like that. And there are different periods of literature, different cultural origins of literature. But so you have to get into a little bit of that, but I actually don't really have an answer. I think that one of my favorite, though, if I had to pick one, would be like the history of colonization and land displacement in the U.S. Between all of the Native Americans of North America and the United States government. Like I really loved teaching about stuff like Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee in my history classes and stuff like that. So that's my answer if I had to pick one. 1800s history of displacement and colonization. Yeah.
Man, that did not go how I thought it was going to go.
Sorry, I'm an English teacher. Ha ha ha. I got to throw a wrench into the plans.
Oh, okay. Well, keeping with the question, what's wrong with Greg's answer to that question? I mean, is there anything inherently wrong with it? No. Is it a good answer? Also, no.
It's a deflection.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah.
So I'm going to win this one.
But you have to answer it. Though.
Yeah, the correct answer to this question is the Mesozoic era.
Oh my Lord.
Is the correct answer to this question for two reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Because one, dinosaurs. Who doesn't love dinosaurs?
Yeah.
And number two, that was the breakup of Pangea.
Ooh. All right. Okay, you win. I concede. I love that you get to win the question about teaching history. And I actually went to school to be a history teacher, and I lose the round.
Here's a little fun fact about Steve.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to John Abbott College, Cégep in Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you proceed to Université. My first Université that I went to was Concordia University. Guess what program I was in?
Education.
History.
Okay, well, that
Took
makes
one
sense.
class, dropped it at midterm, never showed up again.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only reason I ever became a history teacher is because growing up, my entire family said, "Greg, you'd be such a good history teacher," because I knew all the state capitals of the U.S. states when I was like 5.
That's the requirement for being a history teacher in the U.S., right?
It was like an abnormally young, freakish amount of specific knowledge about state capitals. Like I was obsessed. I had this little puzzle with all the states on it, with all the capitals on the puzzle piece, and I had to like put the puzzle pieces back together from memory. So it's because I was obsessed with this one puzzle that I got obsessed with learning state capitals. And then for the rest of my life, from the age of 5 to 18, everybody said, "Greg, you're going to be a really good history teacher someday." So instead of actually figuring out what I was actually passionate about, I just did what my entire family said I would be good at. So yeah, I actually have quite a bit of resentment to this day about that very topic.
What's the capital of West Virginia?
Charleston.
Charleston.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the capital of East Virginia?
It doesn't exist. Yes, does not. Anyway, yeah, is it Charleston? I actually don't really remember. I think it's Charleston.
I picked the one that I was like, no one knows anything about West Virginia.
Google it. Go on Google. Is it?
We're just always going to fact check you right now.
I need, because it's so funny to me. I hope I actually get it wrong. Because I knew it all when I was a kid. And I wonder if Charleston is West Virginia's capital city. I'm correct. Oh, yeah. 35 years ago, I learned that fact, and I still remember it. Yeah. Yeah. So, holy crap. That is kind of mind-blowing right
What's the
now.
capital of Idaho?
I think it's just Boise.
Boise, yeah. That's what that would my guess would be.
I'm going to look it up. Boise, Idaho, capital. Idaho state capital in Boise. Bingo.
See,
Yep.
I would. What do you know your Canadian provincial capitals?
Yeah, Regina, Winnipeg, Ottawa, Victoria, is Edmonton? Is it Edmonton in Alberta? The provincial capital? Anyway, I know a bunch of them in Canada, but
What's the capital of Quebec?
is it Quebec City?
It is.
Yeah.
It's the. What's the capital of?
Don't ask me crap like Prince Edward Island and stuff
What's
like
the
that.
capital of New Brunswick?
Fredericton? Is it Fredericton? The capital of New Brunswick? You guys are Canadians, man. I'm just like throwing out answers here. Yeah, Fredericton, New Brunswick. Shout out to Fredericton. You realize that we're going completely insane here right now, right?
Yeah, well, I'm just curious because
I know a lot of them.
As a Canadian, I think I know a fair amount of U.S. capitals.
Mm-hmm. What's the capital of Missouri?
Missouri?
Yeah.
It's not St. Louis, is it?
No, it's not.
It's Agency, Missouri.
It's Jefferson City,
Oh.
which is a city in the middle of the state, about 27 miles south of Columbia, Missouri, which is where the home of the University of Missouri is.
Did you live near Agency, Missouri?
I've never heard of that.
Oh. Agency was a place when you need to fill up at a gas station in the U.S. and you have a Canadian credit card and it requires your zip code. You take the numbers from your postal code and you put 01 at the end of it.
Uh-huh.
And that gives you a zip code in a U.S. city that'll work with your Canadian credit card at a gas pump in the U.S. So from where I used to travel, my postal code, adding a 01 at the end, brought me to an address in Agency, Missouri.
Dude.
Where I was able to fill up at gas pumps in the U.S.
Amazing. Okay, next question.
Question 20.
Oh, my Lord.
We're a third of the way through this.
2/3.
2/3.
2/3.
How do you pick what song is next for the podcast? I can answer this one.
Yeah.
Greg sends me a text message that says, hey, which of these two songs do you want to do next? And I say, hey, man, I'll do either of them, whatever one you want. And then Greg's like, okay, let's do this one.
I always say which one is less work, and then it winds up being the same amount of work. So in the past, it's been I've procrastinated several episodes tremendously. Things like Mataka Marisuku Rasakan, Oka Everywhere, stuff like that. Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes, stuff with tons and tons and tons of like very specific facts. I've tended to avoid as long as possible, but it's really, really random. Like the other day, like didn't we figure out that we hadn't done like a failed states episode in like 2 years or something?
Yeah.
But we've done like 5 episodes on how to clean everything in that same amount of time. Like, so
we've overloaded on the how to clean.
You have no idea how relieved I am that we're done with how to clean everything. Like, I'm so relieved.
I would say that most of the episodes I've done on the show are how to clean episodes, and it's my least favorite record.
I love that. I love to torture you and make sure that you're as unhappy as possible. Next question.
Question 21 from question mark. Have you ever fallen asleep at a show?
Okay. This is a great question. I have not, but I have a very vivid memory from high school where my friend Spencer fell asleep watching the Chicago punk band from Asian Man Records called the Honor System, which includes former members of another Chicago punk band called the Broadways. I look over, Spencer, we're in high school. He is stone sober, right next to the PA system, leaning against the wall, completely asleep, standing up. Like, it was so loud where we were, and Dan Hanaway from the Honor System's voice was so loud in the speaker. I have no idea how any of us escaped that show with our hearing. One of the loudest shows I've ever been to in my life, and my friend Spencer was sound asleep standing up. I guarantee you he remembers it to this day because it was so freaking insane how impossible it should have been for him to fall asleep, and yet he did.
I love that.
Yeah.
My answer to this question is yes, I've fallen asleep at 2 shows.
Okay, what are they?
Both at the same venue, oddly enough.
I believe
at
it.
the Phoenix in Toronto.
Okay.
The first show I fell asleep at was Get Up Kids.
Ooh, Missouri's own Get Up Kids.
Man, they just lulled me to sleep.
Yeah.
That was...
Was it the On the Wire tour in like 2002?
It was around 2005-ish.
Okay, so it was post Something to Write Home About era when they were in their like their lowest periods of fandom, probably.
And let me tell you, great sleep.
Oh, good.
Great sleep. The second show I fell asleep at was also at the Phoenix. It was the Phantomas.
What? With Mike Patton?
With Mike Patton, King Buzzo, Dave Lombardo, and Trevor Dunn. I fell asleep during the Phantomas.
That doesn't make any sense to me. That is
I regret falling asleep during the Phantomas.
I'm sure you do because that's a special band.
Not many people have seen Phantomas.
Yeah. Wow. You really, man. I'm a little mad at you right now.
I was not feeling well when I went to that show. So it was.
Well, that makes sense.
I fell asleep, but I fell asleep at a Phantomas show.
Yeah, you have my condolences on that one because that would have been a hell of a show. Next question.
Question 22. By bassist.
Steven Yarushi.
What is the first piece of art that politicized you?
Okay, so this is going to surprise 0 people, but the answer is Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes. Okay, so some more non-obvious answers would be another various obvious answer, People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn, big one. Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman. The artwork of Banksy, I was following very closely for a while. Rage Against the Machine was big. Another thing that really stood out to me was the 1968 speech by Bobby Kennedy, not the current presidential candidate in the independent presidential race of Robert Kennedy. But Bobby Kennedy, his speech at the Cleveland City Club on the mindless menace of violence.
How old were you when that came out?
1968?
Yeah, how old were you?
Minus 25?
Then how can it be the first piece of art that politicized you?
Because it was a video. I saw a video of it.
The literal first piece of art that politicized you.
Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes.
That's the question.
But I have answers. I have so many answers.
You're listing off all of the things that politicized art. The
Today's
question is-
Empire, tomorrow's ashes. Yeah. And who is the artist that made the cover? Ferlinghetti? Yeah, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, who made the cover artwork for Today's Empire, tomorrow's ashes. Big deal.
That's a good answer. You eventually got there, but it's a good answer.
I actually started with that. That was
Yeah.
the first thing I said, and then I just kept going for
Yeah.
no reason.
I was like, it's the first piece of art, not all the pieces of art.
All right,
The
what's
first
yours?
piece of art. Mine, I've talked about it on the show before. Earth Crisis Firestorm.
Yeah. Nice.
I didn't know anything about anything before I heard Earth Crisis.
Yeah. And then I love that Propagandy critiques that song so intensely in Firestorm My Ass. Street by street, block by block, taking it all back. And then it's like, and what was the lyrics of the Firestorm My Ass version?
Oh, I can't even remember.
Yeah, they're like basically like talking about like these like straight edge guys from Syracuse, New York. Like they're like the Gestapo with boots marching through the streets. Crazy stuff, man.
Yeah, Firestorm.
Nice. Cool. Good answer. Next question.
Question 23 for those
Wow.
keeping score. 23. Also from Bassist.
Steven.
Scene. It's raining.
Mm-hmm.
You wake up one morning. You have nothing to do on the weekend. What do you do to achieve the coziest morning?
Okay. Well, I would first of all be woken up at 5 a.m. by my cats, who are hell-bent on ruining my life. So there is no relaxation for me because I would be out of bed before I want to be. So in the hypothetical, improbable scenario that my cats don't wake me up, I sleep in a little bit and then I stumble to my coffee pot. I make coffee, and I stare at the pot while the coffee brews into the pot, and then I yank the coffee pot out of the machine while it's brewing when there's exactly enough to fill up a mug, and then I shove the pot back in so it doesn't drip everywhere. And then I lay there on the couch and stare at the floor in a blanket, probably.
That's okay.
Is it too dark?
It's a bit dark. It's not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
/ also what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you have an answer?
I mean, yeah, I have an answer. So mine starts off with a little bit of sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, Zoe can probably speak to my sleeping habits, in which she's going to be like, "But isn't every day a sleep in for you?"
Every day is a sleep in for Steve.
Steve, you can't wake up?
I can. I just choose not to.
I see. Once I'm awake, there's no falling back asleep, and once I'm awake, there is no napping. I cannot nap. It just doesn't work for me. I will if I'm exhausted in the middle of the day, I'll lay in my bed with my eyes closed, and 75 minutes can go by and I won't fall asleep.
I mean, in my defense, sleep is something I struggle with as a person with ankylosing spondylitis. It's difficult to sleep sometimes. So if I'm sleeping, I like to take advantage of it.
There you go.
So it starts with a little bit of a sleep in. After that, get up, have a shower. Because of the AS, have to start the day with a shower, loosen up the old back.
Mm-hmm.
Next, I'm going in the kitchen. I'm firing up an awesome tofu scramble.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking the juicer. We're having a fresh juice with that tofu scramble. And then I'm coming in here into the living room, right where we're sitting right now, and I'm just popping on an F1 race.
You win this question. Like you win. I concede.
That's my cozy.
Mo-
I would like to pose that same question to Zoe though.
I'm going to add that in July I would watch the Tour de France, and that is much cozier than my previous answer. Zoe, what do you got?
My cozy morning would start similar to Greg's.
Despair, looking at the,
No,
looking at the
not that
coffee?
part. The coffee part. I recently purchased a $14 espresso maker from Value Village, which is the best purchase I've probably ever made. So I start my mornings with a very nice cup of espresso. And then my cozy morning is blanket with my feet up and playing Animal Crossing on my Switch, because that's what I do. every morning.
That's perfect. I love the stumbling to the kitchen and like staring at the coffee while it brews. Like I actually do that every day. This is not a joke. I haul myself, my lumbering carcass through my living room in the pitch black Buffalo morning, and I stare at my coffee being brewed every day.
Non-coffee drinker right here. Like, how often would you say that I would, like, basically never?
I'm jealous because I am so addicted and so reliant upon it at this point that the thought of quitting it is just not even something I'm remotely interested in even discussing.
I can't even think of anything that I consume that has caffeine in it.
That's insane to me. Anyway, I'm jealous. That's good. Next question.
Question 24. We're coming up to the end of this here.
Good.
Question 24.
Good.
From Danik again.
Dude, you know what, though? I can understand why Chris Hanna's AMA on his Patreon, which lasted like 4+ hours, where he got so despondent. I am starting to crack under the pressure of all this, so I get it. Anyway, next question.
So, Danik, if you could interview Stinky Mike for the pod, would you? Have you tried? So, I'm going to go straight up and like, I know a whole bunch of mics, but they all smell pretty fine.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, sure.
Who's Stinky Mike?
He was one of the first bass players of Propagandy.
I didn't even know that.
I don't remember if he was the first bass player or the second bass player. There was Scott Hopper and Mike Baumeister. And Chris tells the story of Stinky Mike on his Patreon, where Mike would always wear this like leather jacket, even in the summertime. So he would like be sweating inside this leather jacket at like the height of summer. So that's where the nickname comes from. I hear very indirectly that he's not maybe a very huge fan of the band. I've never tried to reach out to Stinky Mike. He probably doesn't go by Stinky anymore. He probably just goes by Mike.
Or regular Mike.
Regular Mike. I've never reached out to regular Mike.
Regular smelling Mike.
But if regular smelling Mike, who at one time was a member of Propagandy, would like to be on the podcast, he is very welcome to do so.
Regular Mike.
Yeah.
Regular smelling Mike, formerly known as
Yeah.
Stinky Mike.
Yeah. The artist formerly known as Stinky
Stinky Mike.
Mike. Yeah. Anyway, haven't had him. Would.
Yeah, why not?
Next question.
25.
Oh my God.
Matt, sir. Steve, what's the story of how you first got involved with the podcast, and did you interview?
Ooh.
This is a great question.
Yeah, I mean, you know the craziness of like interviewing for jobs in this day and age. The process was not like that.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, I think I just started being on the show.
I don't remember what we did. How did it go down? Did I ask you?
I don't even think you asked me. You were just like, "Hey, let's do an episode." And I was like, "Okay." And then I'm just still doing episodes.
Okay, you know what? This is interesting because like I don't really actually have a recollection of ever saying to you, "Do you want to be the permanent co-host of this show?" I don't think it happened like that. Because I did have some other co-hosts that did a full episode with me, like Jed from Talking Records did the full Bullshit Politicians episode. Josh from Last Believer, a podcast about Good Riddance, did the full episode with me on Letters to a Young Anus. And I think he co-hosted Ordinary People Do Fucked Up Things When Fucked Up Things Become Ordinary also. But I think I did that with you where I was like, hey, do you want to co-host an episode? And then I think it just like went well. And we did Who'll Help Me Bake This Bread. And then I think it just kind of kept happening.
Yeah. So there was no real formal process involved. And like prior to my joining the show, like Greg and I had hung out in person before and like multiple times.
Yeah.
So
that was really attractive to me too, because Keith lived 10 hours away from me the entire time we were co-hosting the show together. And the fact that like you were in Buffalo regularly was very attractive to me to have you on the show, because I knew that we could actually have like a real in-person friendship, which is so valuable in 2024, because so many friendships have been like gone entirely virtual in people's lives. So I think that was a really big sticking point for me. I mean, like a huge benefit for me to have you on permanently.
And we go to shows together and we have fun.
Yep, exactly. The Zambonis being the number one #1 rock show, but no one went to.
And that gave me horrific COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Horrific COVID.
And I wasn't sick at all, which is so crazy.
And we were in the same car.
I know. I wasn't sick at all. And you and Mike got so sick, and
Horrific.
I was doing good.
I missed all of the Coldest Life reunion show because of the COVID that I had from that Zamboni show.
Wow. And there wasn't even any people at that Zamboni show.
We were literally 3 of the 5 people that were at that show.
In a full-size city downtown parking lot in Buffalo with a stage and beer trucks and vendors, no one went.
It was outdoors, and I didn't have anyone standing within 10 feet of me.
Perfect weather, too. Perfect weather. What a swing and a miss from Buffalo in general. I'm going to be mad at Pearl Street Brewery or whatever that place was called.
Pearl Street Brewery, yeah.
Yeah, forever.
They did the Zambonis dirty on that one.
They did them so dirty. Anyway, next question.
Next question.
What do we got?
Question 26.
I can't believe this.
From friend of the show, all-time friend of the show,
All
Matt
time.
Milkowski.
Yeah.
What is one propagandy theme / take / recommended resource / line that you take issue with, or at least are not fully on board with? Sorry, Greg, can't choose highly because you've already addressed it a few times.
Well, then I won't address it. You can listen to that episode to find out exactly what I think about that song. My guest on that episode, by the way, also a PhD, Dr. Aaron McLeod, who wrote a book about Rastafarianism. Great episode. But my answer is about voting. I vote in every single election, from the hyper-local to the national. If you like the lines, like if you're dumb enough to vote, you're dumb enough to believe them and stuff like that. I know that's like some of the oldest lyrics in Propagandy's catalog and stuff like that, but I've never resonated with that line. I also don't really resonate with the whole fuck the troops mentality on stick the flag up your ass. So that was a hard one. Those are just ones that are just like really complicated to me, but I vote in every election. So my biggest gripes are those 2 songs from 30 plus years ago at this point.
That's a good answer.
Thanks.
It's way better than my answer.
Okay, what do you got?
My answer is the issue that I'm taking is with Chris Hanna, the person.
Ooh.
And Chris Hanna's absolute delusional, outright horrifically bad takes on the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh my God. I mean,
he is one of the most delusional Toronto Maple Leafs fans I've ever seen in my life.
Hey, I invited him to come on and talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs for you.
That, if we can go back for dream guest, I want to do an all hockey episode with Chris Hanna.
Well, you're really persuading him by calling him the most delusional fan ever. Like, this is surely going to win him over to our argument.
But yeah, I would like to talk hockey with Chris Hanna. But yeah, his Leafs takes are awful.
You have to admit I won that question.
Of course you won that question.
I whooped your butt on that question.
Yeah, Greg wins that one.
I actually addressed real songs.
Yeah.
But okay, that's fine. Next question. Thank you, Matt.
Question 27 from Matt Milkowski.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
Yes. Where do you stand on theism and deism today? Your own beliefs or opinions of others, if that moves you more.
Okay, so I am first and foremost a moron. That's my major philosophical belief system. That I am a complete fool that knows nothing about anything, and that the older I get, the dumber I get. So I am an atheist with a tinge of agnosticism because I don't know anything about anything. That's my answer.
So Greg stole my answer.
Oh, good.
See, I am also an actual idiot.
An actual moron.
Yeah, like an actual moron.
Yeah, can you believe that people are listening to this crap right now?
And I have zero desire to talk about either of those things
Yeah.
at all.
It's hard, and I host an academic podcast about religion. You would think that if anybody had a good answer to this question, it would be me.
Yeah, I really wanted you to answer this question.
Yeah, well, I didn't. Well, I did. I did answer it because I don't
Yeah.
know anything. Like, I like talking about what people learn about the world in research about religion, but I don't know anything, man. And I'm fine with that because I'm tired.
Yeah, like I mean, it's sometimes it's fun to walk into a conversation with a whole bunch of people you don't know and be like, "Hey, what's up with religion?"
What's up with religion? Yeah. Oh, politics, huh? Oh.
Right? You know, like that's fun, but beyond that, like I have no desire to talk about anything like that. Like just let's talk about wrestling.
You can listen to me talk about it for 300 hours on the podcast Classical Ideas if you would like. It's all there.
I think that this is our first ad.
Oh yeah,
This episode is brought to you by
Classical Ideas podcast. And what's super funny is if people actually listen to that, I do run ads on that podcast. So if people from this actually did go listen to this, I would actually get money, unlike this podcast.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say we want money. We don't want
No,
money.
we don't. No. I mean, that's why I never made a Patreon for this podcast. Notice never once on this podcast have I ever had to say, go like and subscribe, smash that like button, because the algorithm puts us into the perspective and the attention of new listeners if you go subscribe in the podcast player. Subscribe to our Patreon. We've got 4 different tiers. Yeah. At level 1, you get this. At level, never did it.
Yeah.
Never cared. Never tried. I never ask anybody to subscribe. I don't care. I will make the show regardless if anybody subscribes or not. Nobody here cares.
Yeah, you like it? Great. You don't like it? Don't care.
Exactly.
Let's move on.
I love how liberating that feels, too.
Oh,
I
God.
never have had to say like and subscribe, ever.
Oh.
Except for Epitaph Records. Epitaph, you need to like and subscribe.
Or at the very least, like something.
This is gonna become a recurring joke on the show now. Epitaph, hello.
Question 28
Oh my God.
from Matt Milkowski again.
Yes.
He really came in strong at the end with a whole bunch of questions.
Well, we gave him a deadline. Matt
Yeah.
works really strong under deadlines. Whenever Matt's doing a project cover I'm working on, and I'm like, I don't know. Matt's like, that's the wrong answer. I need a deadline. So Matt works strong. He does his best work when the time is tight. What's he got?
He seems like a very organized person.
He's great. Yeah, he's great.
Awesome dude.
Yeah, love his
Awesome.
covers too. If we're doing a compilation of covers that have been on the podcast, I'm going to make his Who Will Help Me Bake This Bread cover track 1, by the way.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Love
Anyway,
it.
let's do it. What do we got?
Question 28, Matt Milkowski. Do you have you ever had any invention ideas, real ones or surreal ones?
My invention is a podcast about the punk band Propaganda.
So I don't want to say that your invention sucks compared to mine.
I am excited to hear a good one.
So I invented a game.
Ooh, I like this.
This game is sweeping the nation by storm.
Did you invent pickleball?
No, it's better than pickleball.
You are.
This is better than pickleball. Hey, LeBron James, if you're listening, you can invest in this game too. The game is called Dog, Cat, Horse.
Dog, cat, horse.
Dog, cat, horse.
Hat or cat?
Cat.
Okay, dog.
Dog,
cat,
horse.
Mhm.
Okay? So I'm going to tell you an animal, and you're going to tell me if it's a dog, a cat, or a horse. Dolphin. Is it a dog, cat, or a horse?
Am I supposed to answer?
Yeah, answer.
Okay, a dolphin. I think it's a dog.
It's a horse.
Dolphins are horses.
Why?
Zoe, can you please explain why a dolphin is a horse?
You explain it.
Dolphins are horses because of it has to do with something in the genealogy of a dolphin that makes it a horse. There's common things.
Are you tracing like the
This is-
ancestry of the biological species development throughout the course of evolution across all of history?
Sometimes,
Interesting.
but Zoe has something to say.
Well, it's just a combination. It started with that, with tracing how it's connected, and I'm pretty sure dolphins are connected to cows. It's like their closest relative, and then that becomes horses. But it's also just sometimes based on the socialization of an animal.
Okay.
Yeah. So another one, for example, snake, dog, cat, or horse.
Dog.
No, snakes are cats because they're super unpredictable, like cats. Temperament, completely unpredictable.
Okay. Okay. I mean, there might need to be some formal instructions that you write up for this game.
No, that's the best
It's
part.
completely intuitive.
It's completely intuitive, and if you can explain why an animal is a dog, cat, or a horse, you win.
All right. Okay. Well, what an invention.
I think you should also talk about the other day when we invented something and then purchased it the same day.
Oh yeah, we did invent something and purchase it in the same day.
Okay.
So recently, last weekend, we went to Zoe's niece's hockey tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my she's 12 years old. One of my favorite things to do is embarrass 12-year-olds.
Of course.
Obviously.
My daughter's 10. I embarrass her all of the time, every day.
Embarrassing kids, honestly, love it.
I hope my daughter hears this one day.
Oh my God. It is just it's a real treat to be able to embarrass kids.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I'm like, we're going to this. We're making signs.
Right.
So we show up in the morning with our signs. And then she plays one morning game. We're driving back from the game, and I'm like, man, because I had a sign idea, and she played 4 games in the tournament, 5 games in the tournament. And I had a narrative that I wanted to tell with my signs.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, instead of purchasing multiple Bristol board signs and having to do it, I was like, I wish they have reusable Bristol boards that are like a whiteboard.
Mm-hmm.
And then we thought that idea in the car, and then we went to Staples on the way home, and it got invented from the time I thought of it till the time I purchased it.
Yeah, dude, I used to use like small whiteboards that had giant Post-it notes stuck to them as well in my classroom all the time. That every teacher, if you ever need to know if something exists as an office supply, ask a teacher.
Yeah, it was crazy. So now I was able to do 5 signs, and I was able to continue the story in all 5 signs.
Perfect. And you only had to carry one thing around.
It was amazing.
Genius. Genius.
Yeah, it was the highlight of my weekend.
All right. Well, those are some good inventions. Thank you, Matt. What do we got?
Question 29. Matt Milkowski again.
Oh, my God. This
Can
is
you-
a scary one.
Can you each make an acrostic sentence or poem using propagandy?
Partially rad, obtuse person aggravatingly giving awkward nerds daily hearing information.
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
So mine is themed.
Uh-huh.
So if do you follow Formula One at all?
No.
So
It's
mine is
vehicles, right? That
yes.
go quickly.
So mine is themed around the Christian Horner situation that's just appeared itself within the Formula One paddock, in that he was recently found to be not guilty because a female team member had accused him of inappropriate behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And he was recently deemed he did no wrong. But then after that independent investigation concluded, somehow someone leaked all of the evidence in the case to F1 reporters. So now that Google Drive with all of those WhatsApp messages from Christian Horner is online. And let me tell you, so Christian Horner is married to Ginger Spice,
Oh, okay.
the Spice Girl.
I know who that is.
Jerry Halliwell.
Yeah.
So he's married to her in real life.
Okay.
And the stuff that Christian Horner was putting in these text messages to this female employee of Red Bull Racing,
Oh, boy. Spicy.
not the stuff that any Spice Girl would want
Mm.
their partner to be putting out to other people.
Hey, did you see that I put some humor in there just now? Spicy.
You did.
Yeah, that's me. That's my sense of humor shining through like a beacon.
Shout out to Greg telling his first joke.
Thank you very much. Yes. Well timed. My wit has no match.
So mine is in that theme. It's poor reputation over proof and gross actions, negligence deserve historic intervention.
Okay. Sweet. There you go, Matt. Thanks for the question.
Yeah. I didn't think I would ever do one of those in my life. To be perfectly honest, and this is going to embarrass myself, but I'm fine with it. When this question came through, I said, what did I ask Zoe?
What is an acrostic poem?
Yeah. I mean, This is the kind of thing that teachers ask their 8th graders to do on the first day of school in the first page of like their writing notebook or whatever, jargon you have as a teacher. It says, all right, everybody, I want to get to know you. And so I want you to use your words and describe yourself and your name in an acrostic poem. And it's like this icebreaker thing. So this is, I wrote that in mine was like a train of thought that I just wrote in like 4 seconds.
Oh, yeah. I prefer weird other icebreakers.
Yeah.
But
Anyway, great question.
okay. Question 30. This is the last question.
Are you sure this is the last one? There's not going to be like a 31 that's going to pop up and surprise me, is
No,
there?
it's just it's the last question.
Oh my
Question number
gosh.
30. We're
All
nearing
right.
the end here.
Wow.
Also from Matt Milkowski.
Love it.
How/when do you want the band to end? Do you think about it at all?
Well, every time I see Propaganda, I presume it's the last time I will ever see them. Even if I have tickets to an upcoming date, I operate under the assumption that I will show up at the venue on the day of the show and there will be a big canceled sign on the front door. Whenever the shows started happening after the pandemic, I bought a plane ticket to Winnipeg in October 2021 to see 3 shows at the Park Theater in Winnipeg. I presumed that while I was in air traveling to Winnipeg from here in Hamilton, that the show would get canceled while my plane was in the air. I would land in Winnipeg and have to come right back. Whenever they did the spring 2022 shows in Ontario, I presumed that every show would be canceled. So when I was driving to Toronto, I was like, we're going to get there. It's not going to happen. So I operate under the assumption that this band is breaking up like right now.
I agree. Any moment could be the last moment.
Literally. Yeah. Unscripted moments. They are happening in Chris's house right now. So I presume that they might make an 8th record. Apparently they have material that they have written, but I do not, I am like, is this 8th record actually going to happen? I think it's like 50-50 if there is actually going to be a record made. But that's just how I operate. And so ever since I've seen them since the pandemic, I've just presumed that it will be the last time I've ever seen them. If we see a 9th record, I think there's a 3% chance that we'll see a 9th Propaganda LP, and I think there is a 50% chance we will see an 8th Propaganda LP. So I operate under the assumption that they are breaking up every single day.
That's fair. I think that's a pretty accurate. Obviously the band would maybe dispute that, but
of course,
I think it's a pretty accurate and widely held feeling.
I just have to protect myself from being disappointed and shocked. Like I think about like when Every Time I Die broke up, it like tore Buffalo music scene apart. You know what I mean?
They still haven't recovered. They're still really struggling.
They are, yeah. And so, Better Lovers isn't struggling. Those guys,
they're killing it.
They actually, hold on, I got to bust out my.
Oh, Greg is wearing a sweet, the MS Paint Better Lovers shirt, and
it's
it's
yellow.
it's yellow, and
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah, well, I named Blissmas, so I got a free shirt.
That's sweet.
Yeah, so that's my free Better Lovers T-shirt, but. I think about like how much that band breaking up tore apart the Buffalo scene, and how like people on Reddit, on ETID's Reddit, to this day are like, "Oh, I hope that the singer from Many Eyes and the band from Better Lovers can form a new band together." And I'm just like, oh my God, you people are so emotionally like infantile about this. And so I just protect myself from disappointment by assuming that my favorite band is just going to vanish from the face of the earth at any given time.
That's a good answer, because I also am someone who likes to protect myself from disappointment. And that's something that I discuss with my therapist.
Yeah, me too.
But I do have an answer to this question that's different than yours.
Good, bring it.
Because I want to see them go out on top.
Yeah.
And to me, picture this.
Mm-hmm.
It's June, whatever year it is. The Stanley Cup playoffs have just finished.
Mm-hmm.
The Toronto Maple Leafs have just won the Stanley Cup.
This coming year?
Unlikely.
Wow.
They've just won the Stanley Cup. Chris Hanna is celebrating like he's never celebrated anything in his entire life before. And Chris Hanna now has said, this is it. This is what I was waiting for.
Yeah.
I've experienced pure joy.
Pure enlightenment.
Pure. I don't need to do anything anymore.
Yeah.
And that's how propaganda ends.
Oh, man. That is such a perfect answer. Wow. You win. You win the closing question. I mean, that was an amazing answer, by the way.
Thank you.
I would love it if the Maple Leafs win the Stanley Cup and Chris just like kicks it as a hockey dad. You know, I think that I think that's a great way to end.
The podcast or the band?
The episode.
Oh, the episode. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have any closing remarks on this hellacious journey we have just subjected Zoe to for God knows how many hours at this point? I have no freaking. Is it nighttime? Fuck's sakes.
So, number one, thanks to everyone who submitted questions and actually like entertained this.
Oh my
Because
God.
first of all, like, why does anyone care about what we have to say?
One person is making it to the end of this.
And it might be Matt Milkowski
No.
just because his question is the last
All
one.
right, I think 3 people are going to make it to the end of this. It's going to be John in England, Jamie in Winnipeg, and Matt in Chicago. Those are the only 3 people that are ever going to hear this.
If you're listening to this right now at this very moment,
Yeah.
respond in our Discord and
Mhm.
type what we need, like a keyword. What's like a code word for them to type to let us know that they made it this far into the episode?
Zoe's plant shelf.
Yeah, type Zoe's plant shelf into the Discord to let us know that you made it to the end of the episode.
Mhm.
But thank you for everyone that submitted questions because it was kind of fun to not just have a lighthearted episode.
Yeah, this was great. So thank you, Steve and Zoe, for letting me come over and waste half of your Saturday. Zoe, do you have any closing remarks after being subjected to this absolutely bananas roller coaster?
I'll just say bonus points if you spell my name right.
Ooh. All right, Zoe's plant shelf. You got to spell it right and you get bonus points.
Yeah, I've never spelled her name on the show before. I've only ever said it.
You
so
can't do. You don't give it away.
I'm not going to give it. I'm going to give it away. I'll post a picture of the plant shelf too. Why not?
Plant shelf. Oh, it's so great. Like, I love this plant shelf. Like, as a burgeoning plant daddy myself, I am like just fawning over this. I am like adoring this plant shelf. I love the way that the vines are climbing the ceiling and the lighting system. Oh, man. And the little baby plants in the vials of water against the wall. This is
Those are grow lights.
immaculate. Immaculate. Yeah. Love it. Anyway, thank you everybody for listening. Unscripted Moments podcast about propaganda. Join our Discord if you are interested, and you can find us on Instagram at propagandapod. Love to hear from you. Love you all. Thank you so much.
Bye.